This video is going to be all about the perfect shoes for the upcoming fall-winter 2025-2026. If you'll click away, you wouldn't know what next pair of shoes to get. But if you do stay, you'll be able to rock the current trends and stay on top of the accessory game. Hello and welcome to Design or Design. My name is Maria and this channel is all about fashion, all about trends, all about runway analysis. And today, as I mentioned before, we're going to be talking about shoes, which is one of the most popular videos. So if you're here for the first time, hello and welcome. Before we start the video, make sure that your subtitles are off. That's this little button right there. If you will have subtitles, then they will cover most of the shoes. If you don't want to listen to me, you can just let me on mute, turn on some great music and just watch the visuals. I'll be a little monkey in the corner from there on. Let's get started. Let's start with the silky texture. We've seen this unpredictable for fall winter texture on footwear, quite a variety of shows, and they range from maybe some kind of pumps to more of a knee-high boots, as you can see here in Fendi, Roberta Cavalli, as well as in Ferrari and Louis Vuitton. I particularly love this because the sheen that it comes with the satin texture creates more drama and it attracts more attention. Yes, the satin is quite delicate when it comes to the rainy season, but it is pretty cool looking and definitely catches your eye. When wearing satin on different garments, it may make you a little bit larger, so maybe it will be the same thing about feet. If you're thinking that your feet are too large, then consider not wearing it if you don't want to attract more attention to it. The next texture that is also surprising, but not really, because we've seen it in so many different other runway shows as well as the previous fall winter, and it's the furs. It's the really fuzziness. Here in Valentino, it has just a little trim on the shoe, but other shows were like almost wearing teddy bears on your feet. Actually, Coach did exactly that. We have some teddy bears and bunnies on the shoes, like a fuzzy slipper, you know? These are definitely somewhat tricky to wear this season, as they might get wet and soak up everything from the ground. Another way you could wear it maybe on some kind of a platform for not touching the ground, although most of the shoes here are basically the insoles are touching and it's the fur on the outside like we see here. Another way you might be able to pull this off is having maybe like a shearling type of boot. Some fur peek out from the inside, very warm definitely, but this is statement making. It's pretty tricky to pull this one off. A Ferrari has some French, which I decided to put in here as it is more of a longer texture. Givenchy had more of a, I don't think this is fur, I think this is tulle. I think these are like pom-poms. That is actually a great alternative as it does not attract as much moisture. Next one up is chunky shoes. Here in Acne Studios, we see more like that Russian wool boots, which are called Valenki. And this is definitely a really warm example when it comes to living in the winter climate, although the rain does not mix well with this. We also see much more like an UGG type shoe from Louis Vuitton. We also see some really chunky platform from Louis Vuitton going on a regular type of a shoe. I quite like it. It's very cartoon-like, pretty cool looking. We also see more of a slouchy heeled UGG type from them as well. This is definitely more like a leg warmer kind of a situation that I'm feeling here. Pretty cute, but make sure to balance it off with something a little bit voluminous on upper half as well, just because it's gonna have a really interesting vibe. Quera had a few pairs of sneakers with almost like a hockey garter. Yeah, really weird. Next one up is the wedges. We see as many open toe wedges from a variety of shows. Fendi had the peep toes with a little bit of a wedge in satin. Ferragamo also had the peep toe with a much larger platform, and I don't see how the peep toe works with for fall winter, but Michael Kors did show us a few of the more realistic shoe to wear this upcoming fall, and it's a boot. All right, next one up is the exotics. So by this I mean the print, and I've just covered prints in the previous video. So if you're wondering what other prints you could wear, make sure to check it out. Mostly it was snake print. Honestly, there was not much other prints. We will check out one more exotic print, but the rest of the shoes were very basic, and it doesn't always have to be like a really intense print. Sometimes there were just a texture of that kind of a snake skin or reptile skin, or maybe like here in Miu Miu they were barely noticeable because it was like brown and black, not quite that pale gray and black. But there's also some sneakers with more vibrant colors, and Roberta Cavalli was the one that showed cheetah or leopard print on the shoes. A really powerful statement, and I feel like if you're going in and trying to wear more patterns and prints, then a shoe is definitely a way to go. It is really easy accessory to put on and experiment, put your toe in that water, you know what I mean? All right, next one up are the super extreme pointed toes. Here is Schiaparelli. You can't really see that much of drama, but just you wait. Alexander McQueen. Oh my goodness, those are some crazy toes right there. Yeah, Saint Laurent also had a pointed toe. It wasn't quite as long, but it was very sharp. And definitely the pointed toe is a more classical kind of a shoe than what we have seen in previous seasons of the more square toe. I feel like the pointed toe is definitely coming back and more heavier. We also seen it in menswear as well, more of a pointed boots like here in Versace. I really like the pointed toe. It doesn't have to be that extreme, but it does add some inches to your silhouette just because of that elongation. There is not sharp end where your feet end. However, it does add a few inches onto the size of your foot. If you have really large feet and you don't want to attract more attention to them, then just consider not wearing a pointed toe, or just go for an almond toe or a rounded toe. That way it's not gonna have that extra inch on top of your legs as well. We see these shoes in quite a lot of runways, and they do range, and they do sometimes become not as pointed. Here in Tom Ford, still quite pointy, but I will get to the ones that I'm talking about in just a few. And the variety of heels were also there. There were some really tall stiletto type heels. There was also much more of a manageable, like a kitten heel as well. There were a variety of backings. Sometimes they were slingbacks, sometimes they were just a regular shoe, sometimes they were mules as well. I definitely enjoy the pointed toe as it is a classic. It is not gonna go away anytime soon, but if you do want to be that trendy girl, the pointier, the longer, the better. The more statement it makes, the more suited it is, in my opinion. I remember my sister, like in 2005, she had some really extreme pointed toe shoes, but I'm not sure if it was just in Europe thing or not, so don't judge me. Pretty sure you will be able to find something like this in your regular secondhand shop. But look out for the more proper leather things, because whenever I buy anything thrifted that was not genuine leather, they just fall apart for me in the matter of weeks of wearing them. We also see some of the shoes having a double V, which means they are pointed, and the cleavage that it creates also is in a V format, so it creates a double line of making your leg look longer. There were lots of regular pumps like here in the Miu Miu show, as well as many others, so they were a little bit on a pointed side, but not quite to the extreme of the previous or shows that I've just discussed. Sometimes they had some straps to them, though the straps do help you with creating a more stable shoe. Definitely something to look out for if you're looking for a shoe for work where you need to walk a lot. And some of the heels were stiletto, but like here in Alaya, they were a little bit more manageable with a little bit more of a thickness on the heel. Altazara here with more of a slingbacks, and they were done in mesh. Not sure if it's the best choice for fall winter, as it is cold, the weather can get through to your toes. Definitely more of a spring summer shoe, but you know, to each their own. And definitely more of a sensible heel on those as well. And if you're looking to add a few more inches to your length visually, then think about wearing maybe the same tight color as the heel itself, or just the same bottoms, but definitely the tights will do the trick. All right, next one up is the embellishments on the shoes. Like here in Acne Studios, we have this metallic something on there. Is it detachable? Is it not? I have absolutely no idea. But there are so many add-ons to shoes that you can do and not splurge on a completely different pair. Just add it to your favorite pair of pumps. Alexander McQueen had some buckling, unnecessary buckling on their shoes. Dolce & Gabbana had more of the sparkle, more of the crystals on the regular strap shoes, as well as more of a biker shoe, but more bedazzled. I really like the contrast of the two, and especially having it with more of a dressier skirts or dressier dresses and with the same like crystallized feelings. Fendi also had crystals, floral motifs on their little peep toe wedges. Chanel here having the heel itself being the attention, kind of like a huge large pearl. Really cool of them, and their brand is definitely more about the pearls. We also see kind of a skirt or frills with a bow on their boot, and I've actually seen a few other shows and take this into completely different territory, like Ganni here, more having it on the bottom of the shoe, like an additional skirt with frills. This definitely is really cool, but also think about the material that it's made out of. Like before it was fabric material, that's gonna soak everything up. But if it's leather, I think it's gonna be okay. Louis Vuitton here with a little bit more again of the crystallized story on their straps. We also have Schiaparelli with more of stonework in the shoes, really stunning, really beautiful. And a few shows showed florals motifs on their shoes, like here in Ferragamo on the tippy toes, as well as around the anklet, more of a flower. It's a little bit hard to see here because they're walking through petals, but I'm pretty sure you'll be able to understand what I'm talking about. Yves Saint Laurent also had a rosette on the toe part of the shoe. Alaya had asymmetrical kind of, I don't know if it's an attachment or not, of a large flower. Coach had several of the accessorized shoes. So it's just the one shoe, a little bit of asymmetry, but they had little animals on there. Once again, not super appropriate for fall winter, especially if you live in a wetter climate, but definitely echoes the whole accessorized bag trends, but now we're moving it into the shoe category. Interesting, yes. Appropriate for weather, I don't think so. Ulla Johnson had just a little bit of an accessorization of the shoe with a little pearl, maybe a little beading, maybe a little bit of the studs here and there, but quite tame in my opinion, nothing too crazy. Valentino had some epic bows on their shoes, and we also seen bows in Ulla Johnson, and Valentino also has some crystallized situation. Another way of accentuating the shoes were these studs. the metallic, either pointed ones or less pointed. Alexander McQueen definitely had a few of maybe like rhinestones. Jill Sander had a lot of examples, from boots to more of a loafer with the spikiness. This definitely reminds me of Louboutins from back in the day. They had quite a lot of this, and they were so clustered with these that they almost look that they're rhinestones, but they're not. We also see this in Versace in a little bit of a strap on their heels. There were either chainmail or they actually had the pointy spikes. This is a little bit danger zone for me, because whenever I wear something like this, I'm definitely going to scratch myself or injure my ankles in some way just from like hitting them together. They're also a more of a sensible boot in a little bit of that, and those little ankle booties, really cool. Wonder how they feel like on the foot. Hopefully there's some material protecting in between the chainmail on the leg itself. We also see some accessorizing of the anklets. D Squared also had a few of the more of a really rock and roll platform boots with really crazy crystals for men. If you're looking for a more sensible, more practical, and more comfortable shoe than sneakers, this is your section right here. Majority of the shows had more of a petite sneaker. They were a little bit more on like a ballerina type, like a cross between a ballerina slipper and a sneaker, if you know what I mean. So right here, we're taking a look at Simone Rocha, which had several of these, and for men as well, a little bit more on like a soccer cleat vibes. But yeah, definitely the textures were there, the satins were there, the leathers, sometimes paired with a ribbon. Miu Miu also had that smaller sneaker. Chanel had a little bit of a wedged sneaker, as well as D Squared, again with a smaller, nicer, tidier sneaker, as well as Fendi. Yeah, Louis Vuitton all had more of a hiker sneaker, a little bit fatter soles, more chunkier platform, giving the wearer a little bit more stability, a little bit more protection from the elements. That is definitely my favorite. As well as Stella McCartney, a little bit more of a sporty one, somewhat a cross between a hiker shoe and a running sneaker, as well as the simpler version. Off-White had a kind of a medium to large sneakers that kind of crossed into the area of little boots as well. But generally speaking, yes, the sneakers are becoming smaller and smaller. And Valentino also presented a few of almost like Vans shoes, like skater shoes, that are appropriate for this as well. All right, next one up is the Rider. I've decided to put a bunch of rider boots in here, and first we see the Equestrian typical horseback riding boots. They're usually a knee-high boot, a smaller heel, and quite easy and practical. I prefer my boots to have a little bit more of a platform on the bottom, just because it's the wetness, it's the cold, and if you have a little bit more of a platform, it creates a little bit more of a buffer for you not to get super cold. Okay, next we have more of a cowboy kind of a feel of a boot. D Squared here has some of those. Caparelli had some amazing boots with incredible heels that I really love. They do have this Western feel, but then the heel kind of surprises you at the end. Off-White also with some more massive detailing. Louis Vuitton here, Dolce & Gabbana as well, going into more of the biker boot situation, having lots of buckles. Flat as well, but a little bit more massive and masculine. We do see this coming back from previous seasons. I believe it was either Miu Miu or Prada that started it with their boots and pairing of feminine dresses with them, like here in Zimmerman. I love how they used the stockings to create a longer line, almost a thigh-high boots, but not really. This definitely is a great way to lengthen lengthen your legs and create more interest to your outfit. Yeah, I really like it. Next one up is the knee highs, a really nice transition into these. We've seen this shoe, this boot, come and be quite popular for a few seasons now. It is really practical, and the knee is a really natural way of working with your body and not against it. As the knees are usually one of the thinner parts of the leg, if you have the boot end there, it will appear as if you have skinnier, more flattering legs. Not all of them were super tight to the leg as well, but if you do want to seem a little bit smaller, then I do encourage you to go for that tightly fitted ankle or showing your knees so there is an illusion of a more smaller legs, not having them overlap with the dress. If it does overlap with the dress, then yeah, definitely go for a tighter fit around the ankle, because then it won't create that much of a chunk on you. All right, we see so many different examples here on the runways. For us, like the diesel one, this is definitely something that would accentuate the thickness of your ankles, and ankles are also one of the smaller parts of the leg, so that is why we wanted to do that. I really love the super tight, almost stretchy boots, just because my calves are enormous and I have such a difficulty finding a boot that will work with my calves. And yeah, having a stretchy boot, that's perfect for me. We see a lot of leather ones. Sometimes they do have this more of a stretchable part, so it could fit a variety of legs, but no, not for me. Miu Miu had several different colors of these boots, so if you're a fan of pop of color, then maybe check them out. Ralph Lauren had more of this rider slash knot, because the heel was a little bit larger than a rider's would, but very classy, very ladylike. Simon Rocha had more of that sock situation that I was talking about. So let's just go higher and higher, and let's head into the thigh-high boots. I love thigh-high boots, but because they end up on the thigh level, they do attract attention to that thick, juicy part. On the models, they look great just because their thighs are super skinny, you guys. I really like the thigh-high for the illusion of really long legs. So I prefer to have something covering, overlapping that thigh-high boot, so you don't see the end of the shoe of the boots, and you have this illusion, is that a boot tight situation? Those are so cool in my opinion, and just have that effect that makes your legs feel like they're 6 foot tall all on their own. We see Acne Studios having that leather ones, and they're so high up. I don't even know what's underneath of those jackets, but they're pretty cool. I like them a lot. Yes, I do. The only thing that they look like fisherman's boots, and they don't really accentuate anything. So yeah, I don't know. More like Courageous here, having really tight fitted boots would be very pleasing, but those fisherman boots, definitely, if you want to make that statement, make that statement. Maybe think about having a little bit more skin to show, like on the wrists or somewhere else, just to show that you're not a sausage, basically. Anyways, we have some more of those fisherman boots in Burberry, in the skinny pant. Yes, the skinny jeans. Yeah, you've seen here. We also see more of a voluminous pant stuck it in there. Interesting choice, but okay. We also see the kind of leggings and more of the shorts, like here in Ralph Lauren. Stella McCartney had them as well in variety of like patent leather and not, and as I mentioned, the overlap. Yeah, that looks cool, but I would prefer if it was like skin tight latex. Maybe it would be so cool. Yeah, and you can see here the boots are large, but then there's also always a distraction, maybe a really tight waistline or tight sleeves, so there is this balance where you do show that you're not crazy. Next one up is the Slouchy, what I've been talking about with the fisherman's boots, but more. So we see either the boot falling onto itself. Is it made out of leather? Is it out of material that just can't hold the shape up? Yes, it's here. It's definitely more voluminous, and you need to figure out how to style it for it to work with your body. As I mentioned before, there is a sandwich rule. There is a sandwich rule for colors and as well as for silhouettes. If you have a larger boot or larger shoe, then you should have a larger, more voluminous top as well. It could be a hat, it could be maybe like a jacket of some sort, or something statementy on top. So maybe think about that. D squared almost had like pants go into, yeah, it's weird. Next one up is another sensible shoe, and it is a loafer. Loafers, yes, but interesting ones on a tiny little kitten heel. Really odd combination, but here we are. Of course, there were just the plain ones like here in Todd's, but for sure, a loafer on a tiny heel, that is something statement making and maybe a little bit more trendy. Yes, there, I said that word. And you guys, I really don't want to push any trends on you. I just want you to see what's going on the runways in a more easier to manage way, and see if you have something like that in your closet, take it out and start wearing it. We also see here, you can see the more of a slender, lighter, more even pointed toe heel, but it does look like a loafer. All right, back to the idea. See if you have a loafer, then go and see what kind of outfits you can build around that loafer that might look a little bit new, a little bit more fresh, a little bit more, maybe even a little bit more you. For me, you can see here the loafers are usually a little bit on a smaller side, not huge platforms, although a few seasons back we had some really chunky platforms. For me, I prefer the chunky platform just because I am a little bit on the chunkier side, and a chunkier platform looks a little bit more cohesive on my body. And yeah, that is what I'm going to continue wearing, although the runway shows say no platforms please. I'm like, okay, that's all right. It's not for me. I will just copy all of that and then just wear it with my regular schmegular platform loafers because they're more comfortable and they're higher up from the puddles that will soon infest everything around me, okay? And there were definitely lots of mule type loafers, like a slipper, but not really. Next one up is laced up. We see a lot of laced up boots, especially in Alexander McQueen here. I really like this styling and they're really cool, but sometimes a little bit hard to put on unless they have the zipper on the side. We also see Jill Sander more with a combat boot that is being laced up. These squared skates, those are incredible. Dolce & Gabbana, Chanel. We have a few of these, but they weren't always put on boots. There are some shows like of Dress Van Noten with just a little bit of an ankle strap situation in laces. We also see it in D squared, the smaller ones as well as like up the leg crazy ones. Yes, for those, make sure that you're not becoming a sausage. You know what I mean? All right, next one up is the square toe. Yes, I know I've said that there was more pointed toes, but there were some square toes. Okay, the only difference between these ones and the ones we've seen before, they're not as sharp. Like before, a few seasons back, maybe even 5 years back, I was saying don't buy the square toe, it will go out of style. Well, now it's out of style, that's one. But they have replaced it with more of an angular. It's as if they were supposed to be pointed, but then they were cut at the end. So they have this tendency of going in, but then cut. These are much better for the visual length than their counterparts of really chunky squares on the shoes, but still you can create more inches with more of a pointed toe. But I quite like these ones here in Givenchy. They're really simple, they're not crazy, they do have that sharpness to them, but then they more remind me of a ballerina slipper. Yeah, I really like how they're super tight around the ankle for the boots. Of course, the pumps, they don't have that. And there came in a few different materials. Ferrari also had it for men's shoes going there, and then an abrupt stop, something like the bicycle toe in the men's footwear. We also seen this in heels and in flats and in mules. Rock here had those sneaker slash flats with the same flat toes on the end. I don't think I'm gonna go for that, but I'm not that against it. Let's get into the peep toe. Peep toe. I don't know why I'm doing it, but it's here and we've seen it in previous seasons as well. So if you got it, please take it out. Here in Fendi, we see several of them in different textures, different patterns, and they all have the toe, either like the sock is different color or what. Ferragamo here with just a slightly bit of a open toe situation. It's really hard to tell, but there is, here you go, there is this tiny little gap on there. Miu Miu also was a fan of rocking a peep toe shoe with a pair of knee-high socks in the variety of colors. Pretty cool, I quite like it. Prada had the open toe boots, which I still don't really understand. Tory Burch, also another really unique peep toe situation. Not all of them, some of them were a little bit more normal looking, but it's just the big toe, really cool. I quite like it. Maybe I should get some, but I never will because I don't have any money, because I make videos and I don't work yet. Okay. And they also have a really cool, unique, more like a horn, a heel. And yeah, quite like that. Courageous here with more of a regular schmegular toe and an ankle strap moment. We've also seen some of them with a rosette on the ankle strap, also wearing paired with tights. Some of these models just don't look like they know how to walk in heels, honestly. Victoria Beckham had another, and yeah, really easy way of transforming into the shoes and tights trend. Yeah, I know it's not quite a shoe trend, it's more like how you wear it. And there was a lot of either sock and shoe pairing, like here you can see in Chanel, and it adds to it, almost looking as if there were a little bit of a booty situation. There were higher, taller socks, like a knee-high socks, like we've seen paired with the open toe, peep toe thing. Gucci here with the tights going into the shoes. And remember the little trick that I mentioned of creating that length is matching the tight to the color of your shoe. It's pretty cool. I quite like it. I quite often use that trend for my own benefit. Etro had more of the warmer, kind of a cozier sock with their a little bit warmer, cozier shoes. Sometimes these socks don't really work. Maybe you will even need to get a size larger shoe for it to happen, but they're quite cute. I quite like the cozy situation that's happening on the runways here. Sometimes they were matched to the color of the shoe. Sometimes they were contrasting. That's completely up to you and to your outfit. Definitely a fun way and sometimes necessary way for us to wear open shoe for fall winter. We also see these really weird shoes that's loafer but mule on a tiny heel. Alexander McQueen had a lot of tights there, were on a lacier side, quite like those for fall winter. Definitely Alaya, more of a heavier than tights with almost like a thong like shoes. Really weird combination, sometimes even contrasting, which is Max Mara here. They had a lot of monochromatic outfits with everything matching, the tights, the dress, the shoes, the boots, whatever. They were really big on that one. Definitely monochromatic outfit will accentuate and will stretch you out, but sometimes it's just boring, so maybe do a contrasting shoe and that will be a lot of fun. Isabel Marant had more of the smaller, tinier sockies as well as some pairs of tights in, once again, more of either a lighter den or lacier something or other. Maybe some frills on the socks to add a little bit of a drama. D squared had leg warmers on top of the heels. Let's get into the ankle straps. This is more of an open shoe for fall winter. It's quite a surprise, but there were several shows that had the kind of a higher up ankle strap than normal. Like here in Isabel Marant, it's being a little bit of a studded, maybe there was pearls, maybe there are rhinestones. I cannot see from here, I'm so sorry. Versace has some platform shoes with that. It is definitely more stabilizing for the shoe, so you're more likely not to lose it while walking. We see it in stilettos, with D squared here with a, just a regular shoe. Tom Ford here with a little bit of tie situation here. I quite like it, but that strap does cut your leg. So if you have really long legs and you really don't care about it, then go ahead and wear it. If you have shorter legs and you would like to elongate them, forget about the strap. You don't need it. It's not for you. It's just, don't do it. You can get away with it if the shoe is in tone with your skin tone, but if it is a contrasting strap, then no. I like how the Cavalli here, they have this ankle strap looking a little bit more like a bracelet, you know what I mean? As if you don't need them to wear it, and they look pretty cool. I quite like them. Yeah, like these shoes from Schiaparelli, not quite as powerful, but still have that strap, and they're not really noticeable. They don't cut the leg as much. We also see Ulla Johnson with little bows as ties around the ankle, a little supportive, a little bit more girly, a little bit more feminine. Quite like them, but not for myself. Zimmerman had a little bit more of the lighter, almost spring shoe. Don't know where they decided to wear this during the winter, but okay. If you're a lover of really flat shoes, then you're in luck. We have several of them, maybe some pointed toe, maybe some a little bit more square toe, boots super flat, close to the ground. I'm not a big fan of this. As I mentioned, I'd rather get a little bit higher off the ground during these cold, wet months, but there are some people, they just love it. Get me in a puddle and all wet and I'll be great. It's almost like a sock, but it has a bottom to it. Sometimes they have a smaller heel. A smaller heel is best just because that's the way our feet feel better, and usually a proper shoe does have a little bit of a heel and you're not gonna strain your back as much. But yeah, I really don't like these flats. These really remind me of my childhood and all those blisters that I had from them. Thank you very much for watching till the end. If you did, make sure to put a sneaker emoji. If you watched to the end, I'll know that you did, and I know that you're cool, you know what I mean? Another way you can support me is by simply liking this video or sharing it with somebody that you know loves shoes. I have a pretty big shoe collection myself. If you want to see what I wear from time to time, then I encourage you to check out my Instagram page, where you'll be able to see how I pair everything together, how I try to introduce the trends into my personal style. But other than that, I think this is pretty much it. Yeah, I hope you have an amazing rest of the day, and yeah, stay classy. Bye.